Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. It is Monday morning, November 11th, which means it's Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to all of you out there. Thank you for those of you who have made the ultimate sacrifice or have fought for your country. We appreciate that. We want to say thank you this morning. We know that Mr. David Gray, our lifestyle editor, is going to be running around the parish, going to a variety of different schools for their Veterans Day programs. Want to remind those of you who are veterans that between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. at Texas Roadhouse at Juban Crossing, they will be offering free lunch for anybody that can provide proof of military service or enrollment. That includes military ID, discharge papers, VA ID, those kinds of things. Remember, that is from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Juban Crossing location of Texas Roadhouse. So keep an eye on our Facebook page today, as well as our website for updates as, again, Mr. David Gray travels around and does the Veterans Day programs. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us this morning. We got a pretty light schedule for the day. Going to be talking about some Arctic blasts and things of that nature. Kind of an interesting word, especially so early in the year, but we will get to that in a second. If you miss any of these shows, you can always check us out. www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We post audio and video versions on that website or on our websites, and they are free. You can watch them whenever you like. And if you're joining us live, we appreciate that. If you're watching us later, appreciate that as well. Current traffic situation, relatively nice this morning. Not too bad. It's a beautiful morning. Some heavy delays at the 10-12 split, little minor accident on the other side of that, and then heavy delays after that, as usual. Traffic starting to stack up at the Denham Springs and I-12 intersection, but it's still not too bad, which leads to usually, and it is the case today, minor delays at 4-H Club Road, River Road, and 190, as well as minor delays on 64 heading into Central. So should have a pretty easy commute this morning. It isn't perfect, but it's definitely better than it normally is. I'm sure traffic might start to stack up as folks get their kids into school and get on I-12. It's currently 53 degrees. 78 is your high today, so it is going to warm up pretty substantially. And then the bottom's going to drop out overnight. It's going to drop about 41 degrees down to 37 as your overnight low. Getting up to 45 tomorrow before, again, the bottom drops out. That's when the Arctic air is going to hit us. Looking at an overnight low tomorrow night, which is Tuesday night leading into Wednesday morning, of 27 degrees. Please remember, bring pets inside or make sure that they're covered up outside in a home. Please cover your plants, trying to save those types of things. Make sure that you either have a small drip going inside or secure your outdoor pipes so they do not freeze over. Take it from me, that can lead to a bad day. So remember, tomorrow we are going to have a freeze. That would be Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. 27 degrees is your low. Please take the necessary precautions with pets, pipes, and plants. Just realize they're all peas. And protect your loved ones. I know that sounds dramatic, but we all love our pets and your kids too. Probably bring them inside once night falls, because it's going to get colder and colder and colder as the night wears on. So DOTD will be closing Range Avenue nightly from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. nightly. There will be at least one lane open going in both directions, but they will be doing drainage surveying. That will be Wednesday through Friday. Nearly 14,000 people participated in early voting, 16% of registered voters. Quite the turnout here for early voting in the runoff period. Voters are going to be facing several runoffs, including governor, which is Eddie Rispone, a Republican, versus incumbent John Bel Edwards, a Democrat. In the Secretary of State's race, it is Kyle Ardoin, who is a Republican, versus Gwen Collins Greenup, a Democrat. Here locally, there are quite a few runoffs, actually. House District 71, which is Buddy Mincy Jr., who is a Republican, against Lori Calais, a Democrat. You're looking at 21st Judicial District Court Judge, Division D. Getting better about saying that a little bit faster. That's Brian Abels, who is a Republican, versus Ernie Drake, also a Republican. You have District 6 of the Parish Council. That is, Derek Babcock and Gerald McMorris, who are both Republicans. And then finally, you have Bessie District 6, which is Greg Spears of Springfield versus Ronnie Morse of Baton Rouge. They were both Republicans as well. There's also a service fee for fire in District 10. It's $32. It's a renewal. It's already been on the books for 10 years. There is also voting in Albany and Springfield to allow the sale of alcohol within the city limits. That has its pros and cons. One of the pros is an increased tax base and that sort of thing. One of the cons, of course, is that you have to deal with alcohol inside of the city limits. But in both instances, there are places that sell and distribute alcohol right outside the city limits. So it will be interesting to see how both of those places vote come here November 16th. Please remember, this Saturday is Election Day. I know the Clerk of Court and Registrar of Voters are trying to get up over that 45% turnout for the primary, which was bolstered by 13% in early voting. Now you're looking at 16% in early voting, so it'll be interesting to see if we get a 3% better turnout here in the runoff. The Master Plan Committee heard from Eric Edwards last Tuesday. We finally were able to catch up with all those folks and see what they had to say about that center. A lot going on there. It was an interesting meeting to hear Edwards' continued pitch for a civic center. Now they're looking at more like a 7,500 seat center with 4 or 5 breakout rooms, which could host a variety of things. They're also looking at things like an equestrian center, an RV park, and probably something like a lake. Excuse me. The reason that they came to the Master Plan Committee is because right now, that committee is discussing heavy infrastructure in the economic corridor, which is 1.5 miles north and south of I-12. That is the perfect place for a civic center, according to Edwards. Having that I-12 location is great, but you also have the infrastructure to be able to handle that amount of people coming into and going out of the center, or else they won't come back. Now, when he was asked how many people he had in support, he has a lot of moral support, not a whole lot of financial backing. That was followed up by a question of how much is it going to cost, to which he kind of asked Jonathan Taylor, or Jonathan J.T. Taylor, who is the assistant director there at this Convention and Visitors Bureau, how much was it in Lake Charles? And they said about $45 million. So it's going to be about $50 million if they want something like that. Here, they're also, there's a big push for graduations and graduating local kids here in the parish. So that's the main reason they want it. However, one of the warnings that has come from the CVB over the years, as they've sort of dealt with trying to explain to people how this is going to work, it's going to be $500,000 to $600,000 a year, not including a bond payment if they have to bond out money to fund that $50 million. To operate the center, to operate that civic center. That's a lot of money. It doesn't just appear out of the ground. Mr. Edwards said that there were folks who were behind maybe passing a tax that had an expiration date once the building was paid for, to maybe bond out money to build it. He said he might approach the legislature about increasing the hotel motel tax here, which is currently what funds the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Otherwise, they are aware that there is a funding issue. Now, he did say that people like FEMA and HUD have $10 million, $15 million block grants for things of this nature. Mr. Edwards cited the fact that he is from Farmerville, a town of 2,500, and in Union Parish, which has 20,000 people, and they have a 5,000-seat civic center, which was mostly constructed by funds, or with funds from FEMA and HUD. So Mr. Edwards did go so far to say is that the parish deserves something like this. They've earned it, and that FEMA and HUD owe it to the parish at this point. So it will be interesting to see where it goes from here. Funding is an issue, trying to avoid passing a tax on that one. So keep an eye on that, but they did visit the Master Plan Committee. That would be JT and Eric from the CVB. To discuss what their plans were, what they had been working on, what the traffic situation might look like, and that they wanted to place this within the economic corridor, because more often than not, when a civic center comes, commercial develops around it, usually in the form of restaurants and hotels. So we'll keep an eye on those developments. That was the first time somebody's asked him, how much is it going to cost? And he said $50 million. Farrington Place opened last Thursday. We discussed this on Friday. Just a reminder that it is an addition to the Walker Parks and Recreation System. It is for special needs folks and elderly folks. The special needs folks go there, especially from the high school, to learn how to handle day-to-day life. Usually if a special needs child at Walker High had that kind of training, they had to go to Denham Springs to get it. Now there's somewhere in Walker where they can go to learn how to make a bed. Anything as simple as making a bed to washing dishes, washing clothes, that sort of thing. Elderly folks can go there and have club meetings, sewing meetings, game nights, that sort of thing. There's a large open space in the back of the home, which has several tables and chairs, which is where Mayor Jimmy Watson gave his speech. And it's very much open to the public at this point, as long as you register through the Parks and Recreation System. Now, it's 4 acres. They're looking to develop much of the land in the back for nature trails and a pavilion that can be rented out. So they're going to turn it into a nice little space as part of the park system. Getting into your football, it's playoff time. And Walker just barely falls to Zachary. Tough loss on the road, but shows that they're there. They're ready to contend, after kind of a crazy start to the season. Pulls it together, just rails off 6 in a row. Drops the last one, but it still keeps them at number 16, so they will host number 17 Thibodaux at home this Friday. You can check out our Facebook page and our website. We have a video up of Coach Chad Mahaffey talking about how proud he is of his kids this year and where they're hoping to go from here. Live Oak fell to Central for their last game of the regular season, not the way Coach Brett Beard would like. And they will have to face a familiar foe in the first round. They travel to Zachary to face that 4-5A. A team they're used to facing. They know a lot about them. And however, there are some folks that would say that loss, that really close loss early in the season to Zachary, was what kind of put Live Oak on the skids. Haven't really been the same since, aside from a clobbering of Denham Springs that was sprinkled in there. Speaking of Denham Springs, Connedy's Coach Bill Connedy's tenure as the head coach of Denham Springs High School football is over. They took a shellacking on the road at Scotlandville to wrap up their regular season. He will be moving on in Denham Springs with the season being over. We'll move into the business of trying to find a new football coach. And it takes longer than you think, so it has to start earlier than you think. Albany fell to Hannon for the season finale. Just a tough game. Hannon came after him constantly, which puts them in the high 20s, and they will be traveling to Caldwell Parish, 3A school north of Alexandria, about an hour and a half north of there, for hopefully looking for their first playoff win. So good luck to Albany. You can Rob DeArmond, I believe, caught up with Coach Janis. Springfield fell to Northlake, which put them at 33 out of 32. So they missed the playoffs this year. I know there were some people asking questions about, well, they were 1-9 in the past and they made the playoffs. How does this work? It's all about strength of schedule. They were playing some tough teams in the past. This year, with a protracted district that was only 3 games, among some other things, they didn't have the strength of schedule to push them into the playoffs. So they will be looking to next year, looking to try to stay healthy for a full year. At any rate, your traffic today, as we discussed earlier, coming back around the bend, it's pretty light at the moment. Chances are it'll increase. Cross your fingers that nobody gets in an accident on I-12. Were some delays being created at I-12 and Range Avenue, so that traffic was starting to stack up. However, with a clear interstate, minor delays on 190 4-H Club Road and River Road as folks come into there. Minor delays on 64 heading into Central. The heavy delays did not start until after Airline heading into the 10-12 split. So be prepared for that if you're on 12 westbound. Some minor delays at 190 and Juban Road as folks get stacked up there. And some delays on 16 as folks drop their kids off at high school. It's currently 54 degrees, going up a degree. It's 78 degrees as your high today, and then the bottom's dropping out overnight, getting down to 37. 45 degrees is your high tomorrow, and then 27 overnight. Remember, we will be facing an Arctic blast tomorrow night. It will be, it's going to get very, very, very cold. So please prepare for that. Pets, plants, and pipes, make sure that you are secure as we will be experiencing a pretty hard freeze and trying to avoid any complications that could come with that. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us today for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show, and happy Veterans Day to you. Please celebrate it in the way that you see fit, but thank you to our veterans for making the sacrifice that you did for our freedoms. We appreciate that. One last reminder that you can, if you are a veteran and you have proof of enrollment or enlistment, you can go to Texas Roadhouse at Jubin Crossing between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. for a free lunch from those folks. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us this morning. I will be back in the booth tomorrow to give you the morning show. We hope you have a great day. Stay cool this afternoon. It is going to warm up, but start to stay warm tonight. It is going to get cold. Have a great day.